everyone, this is Yvonne from Yvonne Ceramics. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the difference between underglaze and glaze and pottery slip. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more videos each week. First, I want to show you guys my textile board. So on this side here, these are all my underglazes. And in the middle here, the circle textile, these are the Celadon glazes. And on here, on this side, are my glazes from Mako, Spectrum, and Amaco. Let's take a look at my underglazes first. I have underglazes from Spectrum and Amaco, and the clay that I use is M370, so it's a white stoneware cone 6 clay. For each textile, I have glazed half of it with the clear gloss glaze and half of it without any glaze on top. I'll just quickly zoom in here. As you can see, let's say the green one here, you can see that there is a difference in color, where the top part here is darker in color and also very smooth and glossy, and on the bottom is matte in color, and you can feel the texture of the clay as well. So with underglaze, obviously it means that you apply it under a glaze. So in this case, the underglaze is applied under the clear gloss glaze. Underglaze usually comes in the smaller bottle, the 4-ounce bottle. Sometimes they have the bigger bottle as well. I usually buy them in smaller bottles, and the colors are very stable. They don't run, and they are thicker in consistency. And there are many different colors, and with underglazes, it's okay to mix color and then make your own blend of color as well. There are many different brands of underglazes. Some are more vibrant than others, so you will need to test out your underglaze to find the perfect brand for you. I like to use Spectrum because they are cheaper, and I find that the color is very vibrant as well. So most of these textiles are from Spectrum, except for this one is Amaco and this one as well. Otherwise, I love using underglazes for detailed work. I'll show you an example here. On this plate, I only use underglazes for the birds and the background of this plate. It's very stable, it doesn't bleed or run. And then I also applied, if you can see, it's very glossy because I applied a clear gloss glaze on top. So even with a clear glaze, it should not bleed or run. I also like to use underglaze for detailed work. For example, here the word cafe, the black cafe word, I actually water down the black underglaze and use it as a wash for the words. And here is another example here of a Christmas ornament. I like to use a fine brush and draw out the little bowls on the Christmas tree. Because how versatile and how many colors there are with underglazes, I like to use them for detailed work. You can use underglaze on bisqueware or on greenware or leather heart stage. So there are many uses for underglazes. The next one I want to talk about is glaze. I have divided my glaze into the Celadon glaze and the other glazes. Let's talk about the Celadon glaze here. So the circle tiles. The Celadon glaze are very versatile, and I use them often because they are very stable, they don't run, and you can apply them to very close to the bottom of a vessel. For example, here I have a vase here. You can see that I applied very close to the edge here, and there's no movement, no running. So this whole vase and the heart, they are both Celadon glazes. and it comes in many different colors, and you can mix the colors together to create your own blend of color as well. So that's Celadon glazes. It comes in like usually a giant bottle like this here. This is from Amaco, and it's a cone 5 to 6 glazes. And with Amaco Celadon glazes, it comes already a little bit thicker, so it's ready to brush on. So you can just use a brush to brush it onto your bisware. So glazes have to be applied on bisware, not on greenware. Now let's talk about the other glazes. So the other glazes I have glazes from Mako and Spectrum and Georgie's. There are many different companies that make different effects and colors of glazes. So it's really fun to try out different glazes and find the one you like. You can also make your own glazes. If you find a recipe that you like, you can test it out yourself. The commercially available glazes are usually brush on. You can also buy dipped glazes as well, or you can make your own dipping glaze. So here is an example of a brush on glaze from Amaco. It's called Amaco Potter's Choice Seaweed Glaze. You see the picture on the bottle here. If your vessel has some texture or some carving on, you'll see that the glaze will bricks over the texture and also runs a little bit. So where there's texture, it'll break into this beautiful brown color. Where the clay is smooth, it'll be this green color. If you see the side of the bottle, it'll tell you that seaweed flows and breaks beautifully over texture. So right away it tells me that it flows. Floating means it will run on the surface. It is a fluid glaze, means it will run and it breaks on texture. So right here, when there's texture, it changes color. So if you read the label of the glaze, it tells you a lot of information as well. So you have to choose wisely on your glazes because it acts differently from your Celadon and your Underglaze. Here's another example that I like. I believe this is the Mod Blue Glaze brush on from Mako. It's a beautiful blue glaze. It has some dark blue pattern as well, and it breaks into this green, dark green brown color where there's texture. But it's a stable glaze. It doesn't run. So that's why I love this glaze. And there's also all the other glazes that you can try. You can also look up on their website as well. Here's another specialty glaze. If you see the little beads on here, this is a special glaze called the bead blue glaze. And you have to apply many coats to create this beaded effect. I also applied a yellow underglaze underneath the beaded blue glaze. That's why you see the little yellow background. And there is also crystalline glaze as well. You can see here, these two are my own crystalline glazes. You can kind of see the little crystals here forming on top of the texture. So for crystalline glaze, you do need a special firing schedule where it goes up in temperature and then holds it there and then goes down and then go up again to grow the crystals onto the glaze. So crystalline glaze is a very finicky glaze, hard to control, but it's also very beautiful. So I want to show you the example of the Celadon glaze. So you can see that I glazed really close to the bottom of the sculpture and it did not run, it did not bleed through to other area. These are all Celadon glazes. And same for the one on the star and on the house. They are all Celadon glazes. And here is an example of this one, the molded blue glaze. So sometimes it looks a little bit different compared to the textile. It depends on your firing schedule and the position in the kiln and your clay as well. So on here, this one is not the same clay as the one I have on the textile. This one I think is a B mix clay, so that's why it looks a little bit different. It's more green than blue. So, but then on the texture, you can see that it also bricks as well. So this is an example of the mold blue glaze. On the inside here, you can see a little crystal. This is an example of a crystalline glaze. Here's an example of another crystalline glaze. So for crystalline glaze, it runs a lot. So I often like to put on the inside of a vessel so that it doesn't run down to and then screw up my kiln shelf. The last thing that I want to show you is pottery slip. So here are all my pottery slip that I have made up myself. As you can see, for each test tile, I've glazed half of it with clear gloss glaze on top and half without. So pottery slip is basically pigment clay, and you can't really buy them commercially. You have to make them yourself, and it's pretty easy to make. It's basically liquid clay plus mason stain. If you look at here, I have red on this row, and on the top I have 1%, 5%, 10%. So how I make my slip is I will have a batch of liquid clay, so slip, and then I'll mix 1% of the red mason stain, and it'll come up as this color. And 5% of the mason stain will be this color, and 10% will be this color. I have a more detailed tutorial on how to make slip on my channel, so you can check out that. But I'll just quickly go over what it looks like. So it's a brush on medium. It looks like there's a little bit liquidy, but it quickly settles onto the bottom. So make sure you stir it really well before you apply it, because it's basically slip and the clay particles likes to settle on the bottom and leaves you the liquid or the water on the top. So you need to make sure you stir it really well, but once you stir it, it should brush on really well. I usually just brush on one coat, unless I want to make sure that I have really good coverage, then maybe 2 coats. And I always label my container so that I don't mix up. So this is 100 grams of the liquid slip with 5% of 6088. So that's the number on the mason stain. And the color of the mason stain is called dark red. And why would I choose pottery slip compared to glaze and underglaze? So on the back here, this is the red slip that I have applied. And the reason why I use slip on here is because slip is basically clay, and if clay touches the kiln shelf, it will not stick onto the shelf. So when I fire, I will put this on to the kiln shelf, touching the kiln shelf. So after firing, I can just take this off, and nothing will stick onto the back of this, because this is just clay, a pigment clay. So that's why if you want to have color on the back of your item, and you don't want it to be sticking to your kiln shelf, and you don't want to use stilts, you can try the colored slip. And on this side, you can see it's glossy because I have applied glaze on here, and if glaze touches the kiln shelf, it will stick onto the kiln shelf. It not only destroy your kiln shelf, but also your item. That's why I have used slip on the back of this. So yeah, so now I've talked about underglaze, slip, Celadon glaze, and the other glazes. So that's it for today's talk about glazes and underglaze. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you will try to make your own glaze or slip. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section and I'll try my best to answer them. Thank you everyone for watching. See you guys next time. Bye bye.